everyone, and thanks for coming today. Um, I've had a bit of a break. I took a week off, and I'm back, and I've completely different layouts. So I'm a little bit confused where everything's going when streaming. I've now got my big monitor over here, a monitor here, which I'm going to be, sharing and looking at when I'm coding, which has got my camera above it, and I've got a little monitor down here so that I can listen to music at the same time. Fantastic. My wife is very good to me, isn't she? Thanks. Yeah, thanks. I'm very happy to be back. And today we're talking about clean architecture in Laravel. We're going to find a balance between the right way to do things and good developer experience we're used to. Now, I'm not going to go into, yes, she's very, very good to me. This is my wife. She is very good to me. Too good to me sometimes. She spoils me. So I'm not going to go too much into like detail. I'm not going to go into like any theoretical, why you should do things. I'm going to kind of basically go off best practice, and we're going to see what we can do with a Laravel application. We're going to start with your standard Laravel application. We're just going to kind of quickly bootstrap something up, and then we're just going to, refactor it along the way. Hey. Right, so clean architecture. The idea here is that you have your entities, you have your use cases, your controllers, and then you've got your web. So the idea here is that everything's kind of really segregated. This is also like the onion architecture as well, similar to hexagonal. There's so many different architectures you could possibly use. The right one to use is always it's kind of up to you, really. What's going to suit your use case most? And what we're going to do is we're going to build a basic kind of API, I suppose. It's going to be why is the music paused? Keep playing. It's going to be a API focus on the application. I've not built anything yet. I've not started a Laravel application yet. So before I do anything, we'll just get started with, let's get a Laravel application on the go. So let's just zoom in. There is a fix coming out for Warp, which is going to fix this, actually. It's coming out in the next couple of days. I was talking to one of the people who work at Warp today, actually, and they assured me that it's coming to be fixed. So that's going to be cool. It's going to be fun. I'm basically going to build like a multi-blogging platform, so you can log in, you can write a blog. What have we got in here? Anything useful? Not really. So I'll just go Laravel new. Let's call it PHP Online for now. And what we're going to do, we're going to make this Jetstream compatible. But when we I'll build the front end eventually. But when I build the front end, I'm not going to build it using Inertia or Livewire. So for backend app, is maybe going to have a few Livewire components. We're not going to have themes. We're using it more for the sake of using it right now. And we are pretty much done. So what I'm going to do, I'll also open up Table Plus. I'm going to create a new database quickly. We've got a PHP Online. Yes, I've got a PHP Online. PHP Online API. Let's call it that. There we go. So let's just go to, there's the API. We're just going to close that connection because we don't need it. And then over here, we're just going to start to get this all loaded. So code sites, PHP Online, finish. Right, let that load a second in the background. It's appeared over here on a different screen. So here we go. We have a Laravel application. I'm actually using Laravel Valet. Valet is fantastic, and it just works really well for how I need it. I do have Docker available, but mostly what I use Docker for is actually Workbench, believe it or not. So if I can, I don't know if you've seen Workbench, but basically I can come over to this project I've just created and say, okay, I want to make sure everything is PSR 12. But before I do that, I will get in it, add everything. I would say that's a default install. Yeah, for Windows, use Laragon's best thing if you're on Windows, to be honest. So here's Docker. Docker is running. It's analyzing the project. It's just going to PSR 12 everything for me in the background, and I don't have to worry about it. So now I can say, okay, did you actually have to change anything? Yep. These are all the things it's changed. And what you can do is if you can go view all the non-white space changes as well, and it will just show you. But I can go through and do things like I've got type hints. This is one that I like to run. I like to run this every time I start a new Laravel project, to be honest. I download Workbench. I've got Workbench. I download my project, and then I just run all of these things, and it does everything for me. It's great. What more could I need? I'm now adopting, type hints everywhere with very little effort. And there, all of those type hinted now. Perfect. No worries, no pressure, no nothing. And this is where we'll just create a new commit, and we'll just say something like Workbench to the rescue, because it saves my butt a lot. So, best API test for Laravel. What do you mean by best API test? The best way to test APIs, or the best API you can test against? They're two different things. Yeah, I'm quite a fan of using Docker if I've got to have like loads of weird, very specific requirements as well. API testing. Well, I'm actually going to be covering some of that today, so that's quite handy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make my code full screen. I'm just going to focus on the code. So let's get diving in. Oh, and by the way, Laracon t-shirt, it is awesome. It is the coolest design yet, and it arrived the other day. I'm super happy, and it fits quite nice. Which is, when you're just 32-year-old man and you start to put on a bit of weight, finding a t-shirt that fits is always nice. So let's enter in our details here quickly, and this is basic Laravel stuff now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring Notion over because I need Notion more. Don't need much more than that. Then where is everything? Am I organized? Now I'm organized. Right, so if I go to phponline.test, right, perfect. The first thing I need to do is session driver. I'm just going to stick that to file. Now we've got Laravel. Yeah, we can only say 32 for 2 more weeks. I am almost 33. I'm getting old, aren't I? It's painful being this old. Right, so the first thing I do in any Laravel project is make my basic changes. And my basic changes is always, okay, do I need to do anything to that user model? And typically, yes, I do. I like to edit the user model slightly. So I'm going to start by coming to the migrations. Here's a users table. And the first thing I like to do is, if you've seen my streams before, you'll notice that I like to declare strict types. I'm hoping they create a shift for this soon, because that would be amazing. I also like to make these anonymous, which is also really simple to do. I'm just going to close that terminal because I won't need it. Then I can drop the comment because it's not needed. And there we go. And the first step on here is I don't want the team ID, not useful for me. I'm going to add unique string on here, which is going to I use for like model keys. I've got a specific package I use. Yeah, we definitely got to start a strict types fan club. And then we'll just start here. We'll add the first name. I like to split these out because you can start to be a little bit more personal in the UI. If you've got the opportunity to, it's great. Some people we've got double-barreled names or so anything like that, or maybe they signed up and if you signed up with Twitter and they had a different name and you auto pulled it in, you don't like assuming people's names sometimes. It can be a complete pain. Stricter types are better, exactly. And then also what I'm going to do is just down here, I'm just going to add one more thing. I'm going to set this to be nullable. Ooh. And I'm just going to set a theme for the user. That's like not dark mode, light mode. It's not their preferred mode that they want to see it in. It's going to be just something for the front end later on that I've thought about that I'd like to do. And then obviously I like to make sure things are soft deleted. That's it. So now I can bit of a user model. Let's start to tidy this one up. So we can declare types. What I'll probably do, I will obviously work on the stubs for Laravel stuff as well. Because when I'm wanting to generate a lot of things, and then at the very beginning, working on the stubs is always useful. So what we need to add in here, we've got the first name and we've also got the last name as fillable. And we have the theme and we have a key. It isn't like an API key. And what that will be, it'll be like a random key like that, basically, for that specific model. So nothing else we need to change on that. Anything up here that isn't being used, must verify email. I'm not going to worry about right now. I'll come back to that. That's looking pretty good. There's our users all ready to rock and roll. I've always been a fillable sort of person. I validate my requests. I validate all along the way, but I can't do guarded is nothing. I've got to do something, and I've got I do have an alias set up for artisan. I've got a migrate, and there we go. That is everything up. I've got my users, and there we go. That is our database setup. The next step is another thing that bugs me is for me these have to be in height order. It's just one of those things. Just keeping my code clean. Then we've got soft deletes, which needs to go above the API tokens. And then let me go to packagist. So I have got one somewhere. Where is it? It is Laravel something or other. There we go, my packages. None of these, none of these. It is, there we go, key factory. This is what I need. I use this all the time. Super simple. That is now installed. I can obviously then publish some config. There's my config. Then using the key factory or on the string helper, what I can do is on a model, I can just say this has a key. So up here, I'll show you. Don't need that anymore. There's a key. And all we're doing this is basically we're booting the trait, and when we are creating this model, we're going to tap into that, and we're going to get the class-based name for the model, push it all to lowercase, and get the first 3 characters of it, prefix it with an underscore, and then we're going to pass that all off to the string key, which is a macro for this package, which all that does is takes this string and then prefixes on a random amount of characters on the end. Super simple stuff. It's really easy way to add something other than like UUID that aren't as friendly. So what you can do is in the config, in the key factory, you can set the length of that key to be like 12, for example. So what we will do to see is come to that user factory. Let's just clean some of this up while we're here. Again, let's strict types. Clean that up. The return type on there. That's returning self. The personal team don't need because I'm not using teams. Then if that's unverified, we can do that. I always remove that and use the hash facade for this part. And we say we want to make the password like that. And we can set that first name over here. The main purpose of declaring strict types is it's for those occasional cases where PHP can get a little bit of type confusion. It catches those and enforces you to do things properly. Basically, it's like, nope, can't do that. It's like almost like inbuilt static analysis almost. It's not, but it's almost. So there's a user factory. And what we'll do, we will create a seeder. My general rule with Laravel is every time I touch a file, is I add strict types and I try to make the file better in some way. So I'm just going to quickly make a seeder called default user seeder. This is something I do in every Laravel project, which then I can say this call. We're going to, because we're PHP 8, we're going to say class, and we're going to say default user seeder class. Don't need that anymore. I can come to here. Void, zoom in a little bit. All we do here is we say user factory create and specifics that I want to pass through. So the first name is going to be me. Ooh, can't spell today. Steve. Then the last name is going to be my last name. Then the email is going to be my email. And I'm not going to worry about password because I want my password to be the default here as well. And everything else I just want to be default. So now I should be able to, I'm in the right place, cd php online, adb seed run, database seeded. So come back over to our database. Here we go. We have got a user with a randomly generated string, and it's all just set up nicely. Nice and simple, nice and clean. Done. Users sorted. That's that bit done. So that is our users set up and running from a data perspective. So this is where I typically add another commit and say user data modeling done. I always start with like that data modeling aspect, and it just makes it really easy to do anything. So there's my users. The next thing is I'm going to want like posts because I'm doing this multi-blogging style platform. So I'm just going to make a model, and I'm going to make a post model, and I want a migration and a factory. So minus M makes the migration, minus F makes the factory. You can go really in depth with some of the flags that you add on some of these commands, by the way. If you ever get a chance, have a look through them. It's really cool. So first thing, come over to here, and we can, first thing is just, okay, let's return a new class, a new anonymous class, add some declare strict types and return types. Because this is more of a throwaway project, I probably won't get around to doing everything I want to do. Soft deletes, because I like soft deletes. Yeah, I do. And I always like to, so I see what you're saying there, Mark. So typically what I would do within seeders here is, sorry, in this part here, is I would only usually do this is if app environment and that like local, for example. So if we're in my local environment, run the default database user. If I'm in staging, I should have already run it. Don't run this. So I can really control the environments a little bit more. So posts, we've got a key again. So let's just go through it this way, nice and simple and clean. So table, string, unique, key. Yeah, so the benefits of using anonymous migrate. Yeah, okay. Question answered. Thank you very much, people listening. Okay, so title needs to be unique. Yep. And unique is again with slug. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't know. I don't really want that many uniques on the table, but I know title maybe not. We'll have a look at this. So we'll talk about the reasons behind it as well. So we've got title slug. Let's get the body in there. So table medium text of body, and that's not nullable because we always need some content. Nope, because of how I want to build it, I want it to be nullable. Then we're going to have table text description. Again, nullable. And then finally, we've got the table Boolean for published. Default is false. And right at the end, we're going to have a table for an ID, user ID, explained, on delete, cascade. I'm pretty sure before constrain, I can also say index. Perfect. So what I'm doing here is creating a user ID. Hey, Isaac. I want to create a user ID. I want it to be indexed. I want it to constrain back to the user table. So let's have a look at that. Constrained table is going to pull the table based on like the name for create a foreign key constraint on this column reference and the ID of column of a conventionally related table. So users, for example. And then when we're deleting this, we want to cascade. That simple. So what I do typically in my migrations is I group things. Referencing, so that's the database referencing through the ID and API referencing through the key. The identifiable columns, content columns, Booleans, I group together. If I've got any JSON columns, I'll group them together. And then obviously at the very end, before the date stamp, time and date stamps, that is where I add all my foreign keys. So I'm grouping things very specifically. I'm not going to do scheduled publishing. This isn't really about how to create a publishing platform. It's more going to be about clean Laravel, but I'm creating that base level first. So this is how you create a Laravel application, and then we're going to look at how we can clean a Laravel application. So here's my posts, and then we'll come to our model. We'll get the post model here. And what I typically do is I usually put these kind of side by side. Strict types. We've got a factory. We're going to say use soft deletes. We're also going to say use has key. That's all we need for this. What's the use and need for PSR12? So PSR12 it's the code formatting. Currently, it's PSR2. PSR12 has extra rules. So what you'll notice in a lot of Laravel applications is we will chain our traits like this. And that is perfectly valid syntax for PHP, and it is PSR2 compliant. However, PSR12 will change this. So if I come back to here and just delete all that and code format PSR12 and run it, this should, in theory, set everything back. As an example. And there we go. We are back. So that is one of the things for PSR12. It's an enhanced code style PSR. That's all. Yeah, I'm not sure about the foreign 4 yet. I haven't used it. It's still new. I'm still getting used to the foreign ID, if I'm really honest. I like things quite declarative. I like the fact that I can do that right now. That's the limit for me for the moment, I think. And we're going to have protected fillable. The only thing that bugs me currently is that I can't do that, but we'll get there. Laravel 9 should allow us. So we add in our key. We add in our title. We add in our slug, our body, our description, published, and user ID. So what we need now, we need slug. So we need to create a use has slug. Well, so that is our next portal call basically. But before I get there, I will add the quick casts. So casts are just a nice way to say this is actually an array, or this is an integer, or this is a boolean, for example. Pretty sure you just type boolean out as a full. That's what I've done in the past. Nothing else needed. Nope, that is all good. I probably might look at custom cast later for the body section here, where I might look at doing custom cast from Markdown to HTML of some description, but so that is that next step. So the first thing I do is I create inside models, I create a new namespace called concerns. Now this is following the Laravel convention. Laravel calls traits concerns. So has factory, if we click through to that, this is a concern. It is a trait on and for Eloquent. So what we will do is we will grab the has slug and we're going to create a new class. We're going to set this within the app models concerns has slug. This is a trait and go. And that's it. That's the start of it. So we'll declare strict types. And the first thing we want to do is public static function boot, then followed by the name of the trait itself. So what this does is it will tell. Let me import that now. Sorry, it will tell the Eloquent model. Okay, I want you to run this method when a model is being booted, which allows us to create multiple static boot instances. So within here, we'll get Eloquent model as model. And then we will set the model slug to be okay. So model slug. So let's see if I can if I drop this down onto a line, will it make a lot more sense for you? Should do. So when we are booting, run this callback. We want to automatically pull in the model because we are, sorry, that's not boot. Creating, isn't it? My bad. Creating. We want to get the model slug, and we want to make that equal to be the slugified version of the title, basically. Very simple. Oh, sorry, you want to know how that bit works. So that is Laravel shift workbench. So shift workbench. It is a desktop application. Download for free. There's lots of free shifts you can run, and then there is cloud-based ones. There's some premium ones in there as well, and it's basically just a really great way to. Well, I mean, I'm on there as well. It's a great way just to manage bulk actions on your code bases, basically. And if you work on more than one project, super useful. Right, back to this part. So that is how we're going to do that. Has slug, that's working. Has key, that's working. One thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to make the title unique too, because otherwise we're going to get issues. Slug doesn't actually need to be unique if a title is, but I'm going to keep them both unique for now. Again, I'm not going about perfect database design. I'm just going about clean architecture within Laravel. So here's our basics. We have got a user who can have many models. So I've got the database ready to go. Migrate. Next step, let's go look at this model. But at the same time, we're going to have to look at the factory as well. So the post factory. So let's put the post over here. There's some strict types. Let's start working on this definition. So have a title. So we can say this faker. We'll just go for something like words, and we want a title to be X amount of words. We'll just for now we'll say 5 words long, and we want it to be as text. I'm not going to bother adding specific namings within there. Slug we don't need to do. Body. So our body is the content itself. So this faker, can we do markdown? We'll try some random HTML, see how that comes out. And then description. Pay attention to what you're doing, Steve. Don't try and think too far ahead. Faker. And then this is, we're just going to have like 2 sentences of text for that. Realistically, I would usually cap this out at maxing at 120 because the description is what I would use for meta information as well. But for now, it's fine. And then we'll just say something like this: faker. We want a Boolean chance of getting. Actually, we'll just do this Boolean. We're gonna make it balanced. It doesn't matter. Coding like a designer, yeah, a little bit. So the user ID. So Laravel factories have got a really cool model factories. What we're going to do, let's zoom in. So here's a user model factory. There's a definition. You can create one. There's a model factory states. You can create a current state, callbacks, user factory after creating, instantiating models, applying states, overriding attributes, connecting, persisting. There was something here. Here we go. Factory relationships. Yeah, I usually would go for a publish stat attribute, but for now, I'm gonna do things slightly differently, which you'll probably see in a little while. Belongs to relationships. Oh, you can do like a for. That's kind of cool. Magic methods, pivot tables. Okay, so we'll just stick with this for now. User ID. We won't worry about just yet. And what we'll do is there's a factory and for a seeder. So we're going to ignore this for now. And we're just going to say that's how we'd like to do things. But how we're going to do it is we're just going to say for this stream, we're just going to do something really simple like post factory. We are going to create, let's say 20 for Go back up to that 4. I'll see how that works nicely. So like 4 user factory create. That's kind of cool. I like that. I do like that. Let's just grab that default user. So just going to create 20 for me. See how this works, eh? Fine line here between being useful and not being useful. And then we'll just say create. So this, in theory, should allow me to create 20 factories for this user. So we will migrate fresh and seed. And this failed for post model user. Okay, so relationship time. So our user needs relationships. So user has many. So this is where we can say this return, this has many, where the related class is the post class, and the foreign key is user ID that we're going to be looking for. Obviously, the local ID is the user ID. You don't need to change that, especially if it has many. And on the post, we will set this one as public function author. And this will be a belongs to. And then we will return this belongs to, where the related is the user class. And the foreign key is user ID again. There we go. Problem solved. Ooh. Query. Okay, so because that's author, let's swap that over to user. Let's see. That's failing too, for some reason. Let's see why it's complaining. Slug doesn't have a default value insert into posts. So that is telling me that that is not executing as expected. So way to get around this, because I've bumped into this before, is you've got to do it like this. Sometimes I don't know whether it's a bug or whether it's by design, but sometimes in factories, if you've got traits that tap into that boot part of the model, it doesn't always execute the way you want it to. So what I would do for now, I would just do it that way. And we'll just run it again. And now we're good. So if we come back to here, we refresh, we've got user and posts, all for that same user. And they're all, some are published, some aren't. That's cool, that's fine. Got some random HTML in there for now. That is good. That is all I wanted for now. So git add, git commit, and we're just going to say post data modeled, and that's all we need for that. So now we can close all of those tabs, and now we can start looking at the interesting stuff. So that's basic Laravel. The first step to me in creating clean Laravel is you can look at service classes, you can look at repository classes, you can look at abstractions on abstractions on abstractions. They're useful, don't get me wrong, but the first step is always let's look at our structure, how we're doing things. And the first thing I want to do is let's create a couple of basic routes that we can then test against. So we're going to create some API routes because we're building an API. So what I typically do, let's save that. This is how I build an API. I come down to the root service provider. We'll do that. We will drop that. We need any that. And we don't want that. So we've got this web, that's fine, that bit's okay. This, I don't do this. This is not what I like to do. So I'll put this after web. First thing I do is I will go root, we create a new group within here. This is going to contain everything. The first thing we want to worry about is, okay, let's put the main prefix. Okay. Yep, everything within here is going to have the API middleware. I can live with that. Not important right now, not important. And then, okay, I want naming to be done as well. So API : done. Right, great, now I can start. So V1 routes. This is where I will say root prefix V1. We want the name, the as to be now be V1. What about that? In the post model factory, would this work for a slug? It might do. I'm not too sure. I don't play around with them too much, to be honest. Yeah. Definitely something to look into further down the line, I think. So this is our API routes. We go V1 for our API. We give it the name. We don't need anything else. So we can now just group. And then we can say base path, just like down below. Say that the base path is routes API v1.php, which means we can just drop that. So if we want to see that as an example, let's come over to here. List. Can't find it. Perfect. We knew that would happen. First thing to do is in our routes, we can create a new directory called API. And we're just going to move this. Quite simple. Refactor, move that into there. And then we're just going to quickly rename this as well. We're going to name that V1. And V1 loaded. So if you want V2, you'd literally just copy that block over. So now if we come over to here, root list, we got it. Done. Done, done, done. Nice. Just what I wanted. It's nice and clean. So it's also very understandable. You know, here's my web routes, my API routes, all within here. Here's version 1 of my API. Here's version 2 of my API. Hey, Roberto. And it keeps things clean. It keeps things organized. So here's V1. So let's say we just want to get all posts. So we will add a prefix, posts. We'll set a name for it. So posts, : and then we'll just, for now, we'll just group. Eventually we'll be doing things like authorization and authentication and that sort of thing. But right now, let's just look at this. So we are root prefix posts, given the name, here's our post routes. So the first one, we want to get request to get all posts. So we can set a name on this one and we can say, just call it index. So what this is going to transfer to name-wise is we can say root API v1 posts index. Quite simple. That is how you would then display that. It's quite nice. No, I really don't like API resources personally. I like to be declarative in code, but also I like as much control, fine-grained control where possible. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to make the controller. So make controller, put this in the API. We're going to put this in v1 posts index controller. Done. So what we will then do is app HTTP controllers API. Is it? If I capitalize the API now, I don't usually know. So API v1 posts next controller. Done. And if I save that now, what I'm going to do is let's see what PSR12 makes of that line, because PSR12 and PSR2 complain about character length on a line in PHP. It'd be cool if I could run this for a very specific one. He changes. No, he's just got rid of a gap. That's fine. If that's PSR12 compliant, that is fine. So we're literally just going through to here. So we can click through. We can declare strict types. Extend controller. Invoke. And we will get the request in here. We might not need the request, but we will keep the request. So what I should be able to do now is API v1. There we go. So basic Laravel is to do it this way. Here are all my posts. Why index controller instead of post controller? So because we are in the post namespace, we are versioning our resources through the API. So if I want to then create, I'm setting a standard. I know it's going to be the store controller where I'm storing and persisting. Just convention that I've found really works well. Once everything follows this pattern, it's very easy to find your way around an application. So here's the basic. Turn post all. Our next step beyond this is let's look at making this better. So make, we are going to make a request. We're going to make a form request for API under v1 posts. No, we're making a resource, sorry, not a request. We'll make v1 resources and we'll create a post resource. Now come down to resources down here. We return something, usually an array. So the next step is just to return like that. So instead of returning this, you can return a post resource collection the post all like that. And that's not much better. You know, it's okay. So I'm doing something very, very slightly different, but I'm not doing anything that's, you know, not doing anything useful. Oh, sorry, I was having a drink there. Forgot you couldn't see me. So we need to level this up, right? So the first step on leveling these parts up is to control how they return. So do that. We're not bothered about that. And I automatically just jump straight into JSON API at this point and say, okay, so the ID for this specific resource, which I want to keep as a API, is going to be this key. Type, it is going to be a post. Then we start to get into attributes. And so if we have a look at a post itself, we know that we're going to have a title, which is going to be this title, and body is this body, description is again this description, and then just published is this published. Nothing crazy going on here. No, we're just controlling a little bit. Yeah, sorry, your internet didn't die. It was me having a drink, and I forgot to mention it. Then, you know, we'll start relationships. We'll add our relationships within there, and then links. A link to self. We can, if we go look at this, we can hopefully grab that. That is what we'd want at that point. So now if I come over and refresh, that's not quite what I want. Eventually that'll be show, and then that would have this key within there. So to do that, I need to come over to here quickly, and we just need to say that the public function get root key name. Let's just key this up quickly. Is a string. We're just going to return key now. That's simple. Isn't type. You are correct. I do apologize. If I showed does not exist, that is fine, because I can make a resource, not a resource, make a controller, and then I can quickly come through and say create the show controller. That here. Let's zoom. So we want basically that, but instead we are going to use key, show controller, and show. Refresh, invalid root action. Okay, so I need to come through and just quickly invoke. Going to take in the request. There we go. So that one, that would show it. It's not a nice, easy thing. There we go. And then what we can do also in here, if you really want to, I think there's like a parent, which is where you would have the index. So when you're viewing that one, you can see the parent and you can go back. Yes, so the reason I'm using key over ID is that ID is internal reference, key is external reference. Key is this is for foreign keys, this is for referencing in the database, this is for API referencing. Some people would use UUID in this part. I'm using keys because I prefer it to be this way. It just looks and works for me. But that's just that. Okay, so that part's kind of super simple. Ooh. Let me close Safari. Why did you open up? Okay, so we've now getting posts, which means we can look at testing. Okay, how are we going to test this? Let's go to pest PHP. Obviously, I'm going to use pest because I like pest and we like to use pest. It's going to be quicker to do it on this screen. Let's just compose or require pest. On Laravel, require that one, and then we can just do like a pest install. But to do that, I am going to delete them and delete them quickly. Yes, obviously using Warp. I've been non-stop using Warp. It is fantastic. I like how everything instead of like on a normal terminal, everything goes down the screen, and that's fine, and we're used to that. But this makes a lot more sense to me. Keeping that flat to the bottom and just seeing things scrolling up the page, it feels like you're doing something more. Probably just me. I will start you. So there we go. So pest installed. So artisan test. Unit not found. That's fine. We can create that next. So new directory unit test feature not found. Fine. I can do that too. Wait a minute. PHP unit is doing it because of this. Just do that. Test already exists. I'm pretty sure I can vendor bin pest in it. Cool. Kind of like a shortcut there. There we go. Oh yeah, I'm loving Warp at the moment. It works for me. I just love the fact that I can go to this. I can say share this block, generate the link, and it will just share that exactly as it is a screenshot. It's fantastic that it just does that. I was actually talking to them today about some of the features that they're working on, and it's super exciting to see what they're going to be doing. So I'm just going to create a API v1, and we'll just go for like just like that. Yeah, create a file. My bad. And then within here, we can do something like test case target API. Don't need that. Use that. That's fine. Using these. So we should be able to test it gets the correct status code. For example, a very simple basic test for now. Get root API v1 posts index status, and I'm going to set the status in a second. But first, I want to composer require that one, not that one, that one. There we go, which means I can now come to say here and say HTTP, not the facade, but my package, and I can say OK. So that one, and ta-da, it gets the current status code. Done. So let me just delete that example test because it's not needed. Simplify that one too. That's a very basic test here. Yeah, Warp. It's in closed beta, so I give out invites every now and then. I don't know if I've got any. Here we go. Request more. I've asked for more invites so I can invite more people. Please be patient. So there's a basic test. This is just so that I can refactor for now. I'm not doing a stream on testing. There's enough people streaming about testing right now. I just want to, as I'm refactoring, be able to work with this. So, step one in creating what I call clean Laravel is I create a source directory. This is where most of my code will go, my custom code. And what I need to do is in my create a domain there, and we will create a blogging domain, create a models. We will also have a shared domain. That's things that don't have a specific domain for it. It's like users or anything, any sort of meta models that you've got going around for like type this or type that. Then we can come over to Composer, and what I typically do at this point is come down to my auto load. We want to auto load that, but we also want to load in domain under source domain, and we'll just update. Let's update there. So that means that we're auto loading the domain namespace from there, basically. And then if I want to create another one within there, I can create another namespace within there, and I can start just pulling things in the way that I want to. Yeah, it's a little bit domain-driven design. Yeah, no, share your Twitter tag. If you've got invites, share away. More people who use Warp, the better it's going to be in general. So that is that part. So first step is, this is why I use PHP Storm, by the way. I can come to here. I can come to refactor, move class. I want to move that to domain blogging models, which is somewhere, source domain blogging models, open, refactor, do refactor. That has now moved. So that blog, so there we go. App model user will eventually be moved as well. So let's now move this one. So we can now refactor, move class, domain shared models, which is going to be source domain shared models. Once you've moved a couple, they start to kind of know where they're going. So, and this can refactor, or a slug can move class, probably easier. So move class, and we're going to move this to domain shared models concerns. Come down to source, domain shared models concerns, refactor, do the refactor. Jobs are good. And come back to here, you can see domain's now been split out. So if I run test again, we are still passing. So that is step one. Start to move things to this nice domain approach, which means we don't actually need this. I will keep that because I don't update the migrate command, creating the make commands, so they always auto-populate there. Something I should probably do, I should probably make a package which does Laravel the way I want it to. But we'll get there. We will get there. Let's close all of these. So next step is our posts are going to have various queries available for it. So our models are also going to have builders. Within here, we will have a new class called a post builder. Namespace is going to be domain models, blogging models, builders, and this is going to extend the Eloquent Builder class. There we go. Looking good. Simplify. And if we come back to this, I always put this at the bottom, at the very bottom. New Eloquent Builder. Instead of returning a new Eloquent Builder, I can return a new post builder. And that is going to take query as an argument. Which allows me to do that. Nice and simple. Sure can be added, not interested. So what this allows me to do is, instead of putting scopes in my model, it means I can move them all to this dedicated class here. So published, for example, if this was on the model, I'd have to say scope published. This would return a builder instance. It would do this, it would do that, and then within here we'd do a query. But because it's on the custom builder class, we're going to say published. We're going to return self. Then we can just say something like this: return this where published. And what I like to do here is, this doesn't work yet. Last time I tried it, so I won't. Also do a public function not published. We'll just call it draft, which is basically where we're doing this. There we go. Very simple. We've got published and we've got draft. All lined up, all queued up, all good to go. So now if we come back to our app, HTTP controllers API, the index controllers, we can swap that to a get, and we can say only get published. Perfect. Okay, what I'll do, I will I'll paginate as well. Yeah, we'll paginate to 3. So as you can see, there's a total of 12. If we just drop that, you can see 20. Lurking again, Rich. Thanks for coming, buddy. So that's like level 2 way to do things, I'd call it. Collection, that is going to take the resource, and that is the next level of nice clean Laravel code. The next step is to move on to, we will return a response. Use JSON, and this is where we will have the data as this. This is how I actually build APIs. I don't go much further than this. Set the status to be GP. Okay. I can delete that. There we go. Nice and clean. Yeah, scopes and models get really busy and really horrible really quick. One of my quotes that I made up is, at some point your Laravel app will turn, your model will get more scopes than a game of Call of Duty. And it's true. The more different queries you want to create, no helper for response. I like doing it this way at the minute. And then I obviously response. That's it. To me, that is clean. There's not much more I'd want to do with this, other than use a package. Go away, calendar. My mouse has got a mind of its own. So let's try this. Composer require Sparsi Laravel query builder. This is a package I typically use when building APIs because it allows me to say posts query builder for subject is the post model. And we will allow includes. That accepts an array or a string of some description. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to allow user. And that's it. And then we can say published paginate. And then instead of doing that, we can just say that's it. And then obviously at this point we can say include user, currently not hooked up to anything. So that's my next step. That's not a bad way to do it. I'm looking at better ways I can do some of this. Let me go and a resource user resource. I'm just going to create that user resource quickly. Resources down here. Here's my user resource. I'm going to keep it standard for now. Obviously, relationships is going to be the author is or user is going to be this then loaded user. We will return a new user resource. This user. There we go. If that's not included, okay, that is just ignoring me. This is loaded, relationship user. This one loaded, blah, 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 this user. That is being extremely strange. Let's have a look at the docs, make sure I'm not doing anything slightly wrong. API resources, make a resource, resource collections to an array, collection keys, writing resources, relationships, resource collections. I did, but I've also removed it. So it's a JSON resource. Wrapping nested resources, wrapping pagination, conditional attributes, conditional relationships. This is it. Okay, so other way around. You get this wrong every single time. So basically, we say this. Basically, this. We're going to create a new user resource. This, when loaded, user. There we go. And then if we come here and say include user, we include the user. This is why I like this package, because then I can do things like filters and sorting. Didn't you add? No, I did. So what that is doing is, let me explain this part maybe a little bit better for you, is we're allowing includes, which basically what this is saying is anything here is going to be a relationship name. So for example, if I say include something, we're getting requested includes are not allowed. Allowed includes are user and user count. So we're only allowing users and the count of users, for example. So it's a way to include relationships using the URI parameters instead of manually forcing them or doing any sort of messy code like doing that later and then say the way I did before this package was is if request has include, then I'd have my query at this point and I'd query with, and then I would explode from a comma, sort of like request get include. That's the way I used to do it, and it was fine. It worked, but sorting, I'd have to do 3 to 5 lines again, filtering 3 to 5 lines, and it all adds up when I can use this package, and it just does it for me, and it doesn't make my life harder. It makes it easier. To me, that is the right use case for a package. It makes your life much easier. And obviously, sparsely, it is well tested and it works well. So let's switch that back to user. I've now got my user. Nice and clean, nice and easy. Obviously, eventually I'd polish that resource and make that the way I want it. Yeah, it's a great package when you're building APIs. You can do things like, so there's allow includes, allow sorts. So, I don't know, not sorts. I drop this published, for example. Allowed filters. Say filters, basic filters is we will have on published. For example. How do I document my API? I actually use OpenAPI. Run named parameters. Okay, so I'll see Laravel query builder. Let's just quickly go to the docs. And let's go filtering. Basic usage, allow filters. So we're just going to do that. Published. Publish true. Done. Yeah, maybe you want to, an easier way would be to like do some sort of search for the filter where you're doing will contain all users with John in the name. Disallow filters, exact filters, partial filters, scoping filters. So I could do something like this. Instead, I could go import that class, and we say published. Then we could actually do the exact same thing and say, actually, we also want the draft to be included. So let's come back and let's see how this works. Published and draft. Doesn't seem to be working. Something to play with. But I don't use filters often, if I'm completely honest. I use sorting and include mostly. If I need to filter resources, I do that client side typically. But if I really need to, I can go through that. So that is that step. So this is an API. If I was to build this in any other framework, Slim PHP or something with that Eloquent and the power that Eloquent has given me, I would create a service class. I would create a repository. I would add those abstractions so that I can switch between database drivers and providers really easily. But Eloquent's done that for me. I'm swapping from Postgres to MySQL. Laravel handles that. I don't have to worry about creating MySQL interface or a Postgres interface, and then in my dependency injection, controlling which one's being loaded. I don't have to worry about that at all, which is nice. So clean Laravel is the cheating statement, I suppose, is Laravel is clean anyway. It starts off very clean. You don't need to do much with it. If your application is going to get bigger, you can start following different patterns like I do here. I've got source domain over here. Yeah, I can finish with some CRUD. Let's do some CRUD. Okay, that'll explain things nicely. So roots API v1. So let's look at how we can create a post. I'm not going to worry about authentication at this stage. It will just slow things down. So we'll do a post. Do that home root. let's have a name to be store. And what we would do is make a controller, and we're going to create a store controller, which is going to be like this. Store controller. We get our function invoke, pull in our request. It's all set up. Yep, cool. So here is where we'll create something. You want that is all hooked up. So what I am going to do is use the Insomnia client quickly, see if this will look nice on the screen for you. Wow, no, it looks crazy for me. It is gone super. Oh, full screen on my massive screen over there. So, so bear with me a second while I get this onto the actual screen that I'm using. There we go. Let's bring you over here. Let's just go to dashboard and let's just create a new one, a new request collection, and we're just going to call this HP Online for now, because that's what we're using or calling things. And then here, right? So, a new request, create a new post. PHP online.test API v1 posts, and the headers we are going to say accept application. We want to accept application JSON back, and the content type we're going to send over is application JSON, and then the body is going to be JSON. So let's say that our title is going to be test post. Our body, we'll just sit with title to start with. Post request, send it. Perfect. We are hitting it. We know we're hitting that. So store controller. First thing, validation. Super important. So make request. This is API validation for version 1. It is for posts. This is a store request. Done. Which means that here I can swap that to be a store request. Import that class, and we can quickly validate. So if we come over and try and run that now, action is unauthorized. Let's clean up our code here. We want to allow this action, and here are our validation rules. So all we want to start with a title is required, must be a string, and it's got to be unique on posts under the title. Yes, we are passing that. So let's say something like be an integer, something silly. Yeah, the title must be an integer, so that's not going to work. So keep that as a string, that's fine. But we also need to, because we're using string now database. We go to our database quickly. Here, post structure, title, got a limit of 255. We've got to make sure we've got that. Yeah, certain things can get added to the PHP Storm Hub, but you need to add things to your Laravel stubs as well. So title, we know we need the title. So let's come here and let's just, I don't know, the post that over there. So title is required all the time. Body is nullable. When it is required, it's got to be a string. That's all the validation I'm doing for now. The description, also nullable. Got to be a string. And because we want to use it as a meta, we want the max to be 120. Published, not needed at this stage. Going to publish slightly differently. So that's it. You know, if I send that request, that is working. I can then send over the body, which, you know, will eventually be something like Markdown, and it will be post, and then we'll pass over like the description. Meta description, for example, and would pass that, and that's fine. That all passes validation as expected. So then we are here. Oh, that's a hard question, Bernard. It can show a spinning wheel for many different reasons. Typically what I do here is authorize. You know, we've authenticated at this point. We would then do, can this user create posts, basically. But because I'm not doing the authentication section right now, I'm not going to go through that. But typically I'd authorize, and that would be this authorize, can this user create post, basically. And then you do something like you do something like that. Can this user create a post? Or can this user with an API token, which I will work on API token specifics later. So can we do this action? Then we want to actually create the resource itself, and then we want to return. So best practice with Laravel and best practice with APIs in general. Authorizing the class, why not root level to keep the controller a bit cleaner? That's a good question. So I don't do it in what? I don't like cluttering up my roots. My roots should be for routing only. So putting extra things in there beyond just middleware doesn't make sense. But it is a good question. So here is where I would do a like a null response. So something like JSON data null status is HTTP accepted. Basically, we've accepted your request. We're going to look at creating it, basically. Okay, there we go, accepted. With no data to come back at this stage. So creating the resource. This is where I do things slightly differently. So I'm creating, here's blogging. Within here, I will then create, I don't call them DTOs, I call them value objects. What they're traditionally called, so kind of what I stick with. and within there we will create something like a post value object. Really clean, really simple, and we'll come back to that in a moment. And also within here we will create the factory for how we can create them. Factories, and this is where we will create a new post factory. Again, we will come back to that. And then within here, we will also create actions. So step one, the value object. First thing, let's add the namespace. Main blogging value objects. Again, in here, namespace, domain, blogging, trees. So public function construct. This is our object. We're going to have a public string title. We're going to have a public nullable string for the body, which is going to default to null. And we are going to have a description, which is also going to default to null. And that's it. Post factory this is in charge of creating that. So public function, static function, create. We're going to get an array of attributes, and we're going to return a post value object. Return new post value object, where the title is the attribute title. Then the body this is where PHP looks amazing, because it just looks so smooth doing it this way. Here we go. We can now create a post value object. So create the resource is going to work pretty well. Actions. So we need a class within here, and we can do something like a create post. This is going to have domain, blogging, actions. And then what I would do here is a public static function handle. Now, this needs to do something basically. This is our action. We are going to accept this create post is going to accept a value object, which is going to be the post value object, and it is going to return a post. Now this would usually be a service class, but it's specific. It's an action class. I only want it to do this, create a post only. That's all I need. So I can say return post create come on, Steve, what are you playing at? Where the title is going to be title, where the body is going to be object body, of a description is object description. And that's simple. That's going to return a post, create the resource. I usually, if this is an API that's going to get a bit of scale, I'd push this to a background job. But typically what you can do is just say, okay, here's level 1. Post is create post, handle. This is going to accept an object, and the object it's going to accept is going to be the post factory create, and that is going to accept attributes, and that will be the request validated. Which means I can now accept a post within there, created, done. That is how I do it. To array method in value object, I can do, yeah. So attributes is I would typically do something like do an array. So turn this, and then I can do title, this title, body, this body, description, this description, and then down in the action itself, object to array, done. It's a little bit cleaner. So then all I need to do, let's say, okay, I also want to pass published status. So this is nullable. It is a Boolean value. That's all I need. Nullable and Boolean. Then to extend, to accept this, public, we might pass nothing, or we might pass a Boolean, say published, and we're going to default to false. So we can also go here and we can say published, this, published, done. And then suddenly we're auto accepting it. So now if we come back here, field slug doesn't have a default value in certain posts. Okay, so we are seeing this error again. And that is because we got the key and the slug on the same thing. So what we can do is going to merge two arrays here. This one and this one. Right, slug, str slug, object, title, done. Again, user ID doesn't have a default value. It's like this for now. So in theory, this would be the authenticated user. So, but for now, I'm just going to do that. There we go. We've got it, and it works. And it's nice and clean. I mean, realistically, I'd work on getting that to work, and I'd work on getting that to go in nicely. I'll keep that there for now, just while I'm building, because I've been going for almost 2 hours. Want to make sure that I don't do too long with it. Update was kind of the same, similar process. So what I'll do, I will quickly do the delete And what I'll do here, I'll just do this root is going to be API v1 posts store, and then delete. Let's do a delete request for post on the key. Name is delete. Delete. Show delete. And we would grab that. Then we'd have a delete controller or destroy controller, depending on what you wanted to name it. So make a controller. I'm going to call it a delete controller for now. There we go. I can then do that. Delete controller. Come up here. Declare restrict types. And on this delete controller for the public function invoke. Request in. Don't need any validation on this one. There's a JSON response. Delete the resource. Then I will return a response where the arguments are content and status. So content null, status is HTTP. Put that one because we're actually just doing a normal response, not a JSON response. We should be able to still do null, and then we would just also accept into root model binding. We would say post. What I'd usually do is move this to job. And let's say we've accepted the job and we will work on deleting it, basically. Super simple. So all I've got to do is get the key for that, get a new one, delete a post, and say we are going to do a delete request on HP online, API v1 posts, there's the key. Accept application JSON, done, accepted. Now we're getting a 404 because it's been deleted, and that's fine. I'm expecting that. So super simple, super clean, super easy. And someone's asked for update. Why not? Why not? Root. I like to do patch requests typically. Do you? How you do it? And name is update. And we can grab that. And we just create a update controller. I'm going to out for now. And we just go update controller and add the invocable flag to make life easier, right? Then probably that, and that would be update. It would have an argument passed to it. Ooh. update controller. So now we don't need these. So strict types. Move that. So a make request, make an update request. There's my update request. It's true. That's Boolean. This is an array. Declare strict types. And that is going to be similar to store request. However, the only difference is everything nullable. And I'm going to ignore that for now. Usually what you do is like this key. Yeah, you get the unique identifier basically at that point to check the uniqueness and say, update it, but don't worry about me. I won't do that right now. Status is something you usually use. No, it's something I always use. If I'm accepting a request, I'm not, if I'm creating something, I return the HTTP created. If I'm deleting or updating, it's accepted. I've accepted your request, basically. So there's my update request. And then what I would do is typically authorize, update, and then return. So what we also get in here is the post. We get our post to work with straight away. So when we're updating, what we can do is come down to here, actions. We can do a PHP class called update post. And again, we'll have a handle. We don't really, we're going to have a post value object again here. So we're going to return the same instance of post back. So we'll have a post value object. Let's zoom in. And then we will have that, but we're also going to have post coming in as well. So what we can do is return post update object to array. Basically, update. That'll just be a bool value, I suppose. Yeah, we'll keep it at that. That's fine. So factory is, here's our post factory. Here's how we create it. So so client has to poll in case it's made in job, or how does one know if operation is actually done? So that's a good question. If I'm building something I'm trying to scale, I don't worry about that. If I'm accepting, hundreds of thousands of requests a minute to update posts, making the front end client make another request to get stuff back and stop any slow write operations on while using the API, that is more advantageous to me. So what I'm going to do is something simple like created and update post handle and function handle. Then this is going to have the object and the post. So object is summon, and then the what are you doing? And the post is the post. So this is going to be the post factory create. The attributes are the request validated Sphinx. Sphinx is just a search client. Not super useful in this case. So this is where we'll just return a response. We'll just use like JSON, where the data is a new post resource, where the resource is the post. And then we will do the status is HTTP codes. We'll just say like accepted. No, not that. There we go. That's more like it. So typically I'd push that to a background job. So now we can just like post fresh like that. Don't really care about that part. There we go. That would typically be a background job. I'd usually just do a null response here if I'm really honest. So I'm just going to do that. Content, null, status, HTTP, JSON, interested in that. Push that to a background job. Then we would return a response. And it means we can also clean up that. Need all of those for now. Cool. So yeah, there is our update, basically. So then let's say we want to create a quick update post request. Just create a new one again. Title's already been taken. Okay, so let's just come back to here, data, and let's just use that, and we're going to grab the key, update a post, and we're going to do a patch request to PHP online.test API v1 posts there. Header, we are going to accept application JSON, and the content type is application JSON, and the body is JSON. So what we want to update is title for now, and we're just going to update the title as test title updated. Done. Right, undefined array key body. Okay. This is where we need to reassess things. So maybe this is where we need to be sensible, because typically what I'd do is I'd be using the client side to update this. So have that updated body. I'd be sending the entire object back. We'll have the updated description too. We'd send it like that, and that's accepted at that point. And then if we refresh, updated body, everything's updated. Okay. Eventually that would be pushed to a background job. And if this was an API designed for integrations, external integrations instead of internal integrations, I would build this slightly differently. But this is pretty clean Laravel, if we zoom out a second, if we zoom in, we if we look at this code block here, we know these are our post endpoints. Very simple, very easy to access. Index controller, nice and simple. Store controller. This is where we start to see the cleanliness. Let's say we make a job. At this point we can do something like I just grab that, delete that, post job dispatch. That's how I do this, and then this create post here. Strict types with PSR12 this. Sort the height order out because I'm very specific about that. Then we'd drop that, move this over to here, pull this up. Would have a public this value object as the object up there. This would be void, and then this would be create post action handle, where the object is the this object. Import class as alias. Post action handle done. It's hey Craig. It's that simple. If I want to create one now, I can come over to create. Another test post. Undivided variable post store controller. That is fine. So at this point, we would just say accepting a response, and we're going to return response. The content is null, and the status is HTTP. When data is invalid, that has already been taken. Okay, so let's just fix that. Yet another test post accepted. We were using sync, it's already created it. It's done. Accepted. So then if we just go get all of them, we would see all of these again, and nice and clean, nice and simple. Laravel, lovely stuff. All published. There we go. Yeah, me rearranging use statements is one of my bad habits. Obviously, with authorize still, creating a post. And this is really handy because if we're running a CLI job to do the same thing, all we got to do is pass it this object. We have to pass it a million values. I wouldn't return the created resource typically. So Rian asks, how do you return the created resource if you use it in a job like this? You wouldn't. You would just say, okay, I've accepted that. I'm going to work on it in the background. Because the idea is doing it this approach means that you're worrying more about the rate of people hitting your API. You're scaling your product. People are sending these requests, and write operations for MySQL are slower. So I would much rather write it quickly, write it in the background, return a response and say, cool, I've accepted this, and then allow my front-end client to then get the new one and just update its internal record of, okay, these are the posts that I've got. Allow it just to do it asynchronously that way, basically. That's how I typically do it. And it keeps it clean. I am going to probably call it a day there because that is 2 hours and 12 minutes. My wife will think I've fallen into my computer. I will be picking this up again on Thursday. We will carry on with some of this. We're probably going to start looking at the authentication side as well. How we can authenticate with Laravel through the API and in a nice clean architecture way. Obviously, when Laravel 9 comes out, the clean architecture approach is going to change because we're going to have a query builder interface which we can use to start to do things differently. But for now, this is what I call clean Laravel. Everything's got its own little piece, lots of objects all working in unison to achieve a goal, and everything along the way is testable, which is the idea. But for now, I would like to say thank you very much, and good night. Thank you.